Alright, this is your 9-5 notes. This is just going over the quadratic formula. This is a formula that you will use a whole lot, especially in Algebra 2. So what I'm going to do today is just go over a couple problems on here. And it's not too hard as long as you just pay attention, and that should be it. So here we go. The first one I'm going to do is number 1. Okay, so the first thing you want to do on here is you want to label what A, B, and C are. So A is equal to 1. Let me make this not as big. Alright, so A is equal to 1, B is equal to -3, C is equal to 2. Alright, the quadratic formula, I had to remember it by the song that I was taught way back when. The song I was taught was x is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug in what we know. So x is equal to negative, and then I'm going to plug in my b. So my b is -3 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so -3 squared, minus 4, and then I'm going to plug in a and c. So a is 1 and c was 2. So it makes 10 out of it. Okay, all over 2, and then we're going to plug in a, and a is 1. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and simplify the stuff in here. So x is equal to a negative and a negative make a positive 3, plus or minus square root. -3 squared is 9, minus 4 times 1 times 2, which is 8, all over 2 times 1, which is 2. So we're just going to reduce this. So we have 3 plus or minus. Okay, 9 minus 8 is 1, so you have the square root of 1 over 2. So you have 3 plus or minus, the square root of 1 is just 1 over 2. And when you get here, you're going to have to do two separate things. So I'm going to have two little arrows here. First, you're going to have to do the plus, so 3 plus 1 over 2. And the second, you're going to do the subtraction, so 3 minus 1 over 2. So for this first part, 3 plus 1 is 4, divided by 2, so that's 2. Second one, 3 minus 1 is 2, so 2 divided by 2 is just 1. So my answer I'll put here, x is equal to 1, comma 2. So those are both my answers. Okay, let's move on number 2. So first thing, this is not set equal to 0. So I'm going to have to move this -16 on over. When I move that, it becomes positive. So we have x squared minus 8x plus 16 is equal to 0. So I know a is equal to 1, b is equal to -8, c is equal to 16. So my formula, I'm not going to write out the whole thing, but I know x is equal to -b, so I'm going to plug in my b, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so -8 squared, minus 4ac, so minus 4ac. Whoops, those should be different colors. If I could just write over it. Let's see. So there we go. There we go. All over 2a. So all over 2 times a, which is 1. And now we're just going to reduce this. So x is equal to a negative and negative become a positive, plus or minus the square root. -8 squared is 64. 4 times 1 times my 16 will give me 64. All over 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, so when we work through this, we have 8 plus or minus the square root. 64 minus 64 is 0 over 2. The square root is 0 is just 0, so 8 plus or minus 0 over 2. And then once you get here, you got to do it two separate ways. You got to do the addition and the subtraction. So 8 plus 0 divided by 2, and 8 minus 0 divided by 2. Well, both of these, 8 plus 0 is just 8, so 8 divided by 2 is 4. 8 minus 0 is still 8, so divided by 2 is 4. So your answer here is just x equals 4. Alright, let's see, I'm going to do number 3. So number 3, again, it has to be set equal to 0, so I'm going to go ahead and move this 8 over. It's positive, so when I move it over, it's going to become negative. And then we're going to go ahead and do our ABC, so A is equal to 3. b is equal to 2, c is equal to negative 8. And let's go ahead and start with the formula. So x is equal to negative b, so I'm going to plug in my b, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 2 squared, minus 4ac, so minus 4, a was 3, c is a negative 8, all over 2 times a, which is 3. So once you get here, it's just simplifying till you get your final answer. So x is equal to, that's just a negative 2, plus or minus square root, 2 squared is 4. Negative 4 times 3 times negative 8 will give you a positive 96. And 2 times 3 is 6. So this is negative 2 plus or minus the square root. 496 is 100 over 6. So that will give you negative 2 plus or minus 10, because the square root of 100 is 10, divided by 6. So when you get here, we do it two separate ways, addition and subtraction. So negative 2 plus 10 over 6, negative 2 minus 10 over 6. So this first one, negative 2 and 10, positives are winning by 8, so 8 over 6, you can reduce that. Both those are divisible by 2 to give you 4 over 3. Negative 2 and negative 10, you have negative 12 total divided by 6 will give you just negative 2. So x is equal to negative 2 and 4/3. All right. Number 4, so this is already set equal to 0, so I'm going to have a is equal to 8, b is equal to negative 8, and c is equal to negative 5. When we do our formula, we'll have x is equal to negative b, so I'm going to plug in that b, which is a negative 8. Be careful, because a lot of kids mess up with the negative b, so that's why I always put my b in parentheses. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 8 squared, minus 4ac, so minus 4, and then a is 8, c is negative 5, all over 2a, so 2 times a, which is 8, and we're going to go ahead and simplify. So x is equal to, this is negative, negative, make that a positive, plus or minus the square root, negative 8 squared is 64, 4 times the 8, negative 4 times 8 times negative 5 would give you 160. And you divide that by 2 times 8 is 16. So we're just going to reduce this. 64 and 160 would give you 224. And we'll divide that by 16. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we are going to use a decimal for this because it's not a perfect square root. So we're going to go ahead and just round it to 14.96 divided by 16. So now what you have to do is the addition and subtraction. So 8 plus 14.96 divided by 16, and 8 minus 14.96 divided by 16. So when you do this, you should get 1.4, and here you should get negative 0.44. So your answers are negative 0.44 and 1.4. All right, we'll do two more. Let's do number 6. So number 6, again, this has to be set equal to 0. So when I move my 24 over, if it's positive, it becomes a negative. So 8x squared minus 4x minus 24 is equal to 0. Label A, B, and C. So A is 8, B is negative 4, C is negative 4, or sorry, negative 24. And then we do our formula. So x is equal to negative b, so negative, and then I'll plug in my b, which is a negative 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 4 squared, minus 4ac, so minus 4, and then we're going to plug in a and c, so a is 8, c is negative 24, all over 2a. So 2 times a is 8. And now we're going to go ahead and simplify. Negative and negative is a positive, so there's your 4. Negative 4 squared is 16. Negative 4 times 8 times 24 will give you 768. Big number there. And then 2 times 8 is 16. So we're going to simplify. So you still have 4 plus or minus. When you add 16 and 768, you get 784 divided by 16. That is actually a perfect square. So you have 4 plus or minus, because the square root of that will give you 28, because it's a perfect square, divided by 16. And when you get here, you just have to do the addition and the subtraction. So 4 plus 28 over 16, and 4 minus 28 over 16. So when you do this top one, 4 plus 28 divided by 16. 4 and 28 give you 32. 32 divided by 16 is just 2. And then 4 minus 28 divided by 16 is actually going to give you a decimal be negative 1.5. So x is equal to negative 1.5 and 2. Alright, last one here that I'm going to do with y'all. We have a is equal to 8, b is equal to 17, and c is equal to 2. It's already said equal to 0, that's why I was able to do that. So we have x is equal to negative b, so x is equal to negative, my b is 17, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 17 squared, minus 4ac, so minus 4 times a is 8, times c is 2, all over 2a, so all over 2 times 8. That should be this color too. There we go, times 8. So now we're just going to go ahead and simplify this. So x is equal to negative 17 plus or minus the square root. 17 squared will give you 289. Minus 4 times 8 times 2 is 64. All that's divided by 2 times 8 is 16. Okay, so rewrite that. There we go. So you'll have negative 17 plus or minus the square root. 289 minus 64 will give you 225 over 16. You can take the square root of 225. You will get 15. That's all divided by 16. So when you get here again, you just do your addition and your subtraction. So negative 17 plus 15 divided by 16. Okay, we're going to just leave this in the decimal form, so that becomes negative 0.13. And then negative 17 minus 15 over 16. That will give you, that's a negative 32 divided by 16. That will give you a negative 2. So x is equal to negative 2 and negative 0.13. Alright, so that's all the problems that I'm going to do. So I skipped number 5 and number 7. If you need any help on any of those, though, you can always come and ask questions.